We'll get a little intro here. We're talking with, it's October 31st, Halloween Day 2025, and we're talking with Richard Nolte, Dick Nolte, as most people know him here in Genoa. And we're going to begin this, and I guess, Dick, we're going to start off with the easy questions. Your name and how old you are, when you were born.
My name is Dick Nolte, and I was born in 1948 in Mercy Hospital in Toledo, and we lived outside of Genoa on Hellwig Road. And then when I started school, we moved into town, and we lived on 17th Street, which was in front of the old Joe Latham's supermarket, Holt Harrigan Road / 17th Street.
Was that the brick house?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I remember that house. Yeah.
We call it the Little Brick House. Yeah.
So, well, tell me a little bit about your parents. Now, most people in town knew your mom and dad pretty well.
Yeah, well, my grandfather, Bill Nolte, was a brick mason in East Toledo. He built a lot of the homes around St. Charles Hospital. You'll see a lot of brick homes in that neighborhood, and he was involved in most of them. And he saved his money, and he bought some property out at the corner of Route 51 and Main Street, and he built a gas station there. And he was a big follower of Nelson Rockefeller and the oil companies. He was a big proponent of cars and the future of automobiles. So he put his money into a gas station and a nice corner to build it on. And I said Nelson Rockefeller.
Yeah.
I meant John D.
John D. Okay.
Anyway, so he built the gas station, and he retired from it in probably the early 1950s. And then my dad bought the business from him, and my dad operated the business until he retired probably in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And I spent a better portion of my teen years working there, as did my brother Bill. And the family, then my grandfather passed away, and my grandmother passed away. They had a house on the corner adjacent to the gas station, which was an old inn back when Route 51 was a stagecoach route between Toledo and Cleveland. And there was a lot of history in that old house. And we'd find documents and stuff in the floorboards, and they moved the house up the street, which the Cashin family owns now. But in the process of moving it, they found a lot of old 19th century documents from the stagecoach stop.
Now that house was, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, was built by a fellow by the name of Warrener, with the original house, and then sold to Frank Holt. Is that correct?
I believe, yes, yeah. You're right.
Yeah. And that became Holt's Corner, I think, was what it was called,
that's
right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's that house I'm sure has tremendous history. And
yeah.
And it's now the brick house that's in like what, maybe the 1400 block of Main Street?
Yes.
Yeah. And so that has quite a history. So you remember being around that house long before it was moved.
I can remember following the house on my bicycle as it moved up Main Street.
Right. Yeah.
And they took down the power lines, and naturally they had to block off all the streets and reroute the traffic. And as the Trout house moved, it was a sunny day.
Yeah.
I rode behind the house on my bicycle.
What year would that have been? Do you remember? Was it in the 60s or?
It had to, I think it was in the early 60s. Yeah, it would have been the early 60s. And my grandfather had it bricked.
Mm-hmm.
It was a wooden house, and he had it bricked. And he hired a local boy who lived on Washington Street, Dan Roden, to hod for him, which is the term for carry and mortar up the ladders. Yeah. So Dan Roden was a hod carrier for my grandfather.
That's interesting. I knew Dan, yeah. So now that house, I've seen pictures of it, was actually heavily damaged in the tornado of 1920, right?
Yeah, that's right. There were three portions of the house.
Mm-hmm.
One was damaged, I believe, beyond repair. A second portion of it was damaged but restorable, and it was moved, before my memory, it was moved across 51 over what would be on the other side of the existing Rite Aid building.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 2-story white frame house there now. That would have been an adjacent structure to the original inn. And then my grandparents lived in the old inn.
Be darned. And for those who might not be familiar with that, because the gas station was across the street, across Main Street.
True.
And then this was right on the corner, and the adjacent corner. And then next to that was Star and Little's, was that?
Star and Little's,
Yeah.
Yes, Star and Little's. Star and Little's has just been there forever, so before my memory. But and then across 51 from that was it was just a gravel parking lot, and there was an old tavern there called Smitty's. And back behind Smitty's, there was a grassy area. I think it had some cement slabs, and the migrant workers used to have Mexican music and dances over there.
Mm-hmm.
And the inn sat on a triangle of Main Street, 51, and 17th Street, Holt Harrigan Road, where Ernie's Cottrell's Law office is now.
Mm-hmm. And then across Route 51 or Woodville Road was the Green Feather?
The Green Feather, yes. I made a note here of some things just popped into my mind, and the 3 truck stops that were operating at the time was the White House, the Green Feather, and the Blue Moon.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Now we had, Route 51 was a major truck route at that time.
I witnessed a number of truck and car accidents, period, because of the heavy truck traffic there.
Well, and your parents' gas station experienced a bad one too. That was in the 70s.
Right. I was in the service at the time, but I was sent all the news clippings from it.
I'm trying to recall, did they ever rebuild after that?
Oh,
yeah, they did.
Yeah, insurance rebuilt the station as is. They didn't want any improvements or anything. I think the only improvement they did was they put a light band with the Ohio logo around the top of the building. But other than that, it was as it was before the fire. Do you remember how the fire happened?
If you can explain that, because I think a lot of people wouldn't know. I sort of remember how it happened, but you got a better grasp on that than me.
All I can remember, like I say, I was gone, but remember from the newspaper articles, is that there was a tandem. I don't know if it was a tandem. It was a gasoline tanker headed east on 51. and the truck driver had the sense that the spindle had snapped. They later determined that the metal had crystallized, and the tension broke the pin between the cab and the trailer. And he sensed that because he could see it swerving, and he was headed into the intersection. He laid on the horn, caught everyone's attention. They saw what was going on, and they were able to escape. The tanker at that time swerved, rolled over on its top, slid into the intersection, and exploded.
Wow.
It's like something out of a movie. And there were two vehicles at the pumps, and they were melted down to about knee high. The pumps were completely gone. The front of the building was gone. My mother and father had a little dachshund dog, Frida. And Frida ran in to the back of the office, back in the corner underneath some built-in shelving, and there was an air duct there for the heating system, and it was still running, and she survived by laying on that air duct.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. What a story.
Yeah, and no one was injured in either the truck driver or anyone at the pumps.
Yeah, I think there was our next door neighbor at the time, the Roses. I think the Rose she was injured. I remember she had, there were some injuries. So
I was unaware of what happened outside of the station proper. All I know is that everyone in the station managed to get away.
So it was well, there and that particular corner, as you said, had its share of stories, and we can talk about some of the other accidents later. But going back to your growing up there and growing up in Genoa, as your life progressed, going to school, you went to Genoa schools, I assume.
I went to Genoa High School, and I graduated class of '66. I went to Toledo and studied civil engineering, and it was at the height of the Vietnam War. I dropped one class, and the next month I found myself with a draft notice. So I went on into the military, into the Army. I did my basic training, and in basic training, the standard procedure is everyone goes through a battery of tests to find out what field or area they would be best suited. And during the battery of tests, myself and a neighbor of mine, Ken Paget, we qualified for Officers Candidate School. And so we thought we'd take advantage of that. We went through Officers Candidate School together in the same platoon, actually in the same dormitory room, because N was near P, and it was all done alphabetically.
And where was this?
Fort Benning, Georgia.
Fort Benning.
Yeah, Columbus, Georgia. And we went to Officers Candidate School together, and then he went to Vietnam, a different unit than mine, and I went to, we both went through the Jungle Operations School in Fort Sherman, Panama. And then I came home, went back to school, and started working as a draftsman. And I was hired by Surface Combustion, with a manufacturer of industrial thermal processing equipment. And while working there, I was offered a position as a field engineer. And so I accepted that position, and I spent the next 20 years traveling around the country, around the world actually, setting up, testing, servicing, teaching the operation of the commercial or the industrial heat treating furnaces.
So you actually traveled in other parts of the world doing cities?
Yeah, we had furnaces worldwide. I made trips to Mexico, to Germany, to England. But we had atmospheric generators going on in the Middle East, and we had South America. We signed an agreement with a Japanese company, and several of us made trips over to Japan to integrate the designs and controls.
Those had to be some heady times, I guess, back then. Was that in the 70s, 80s, 90s?
Yeah. That would have been from 74 through my retirement. When I retired, I left employment and started my own company, Eagle Equipment Services, and began brokering and servicing the same equipment that I'd been involved with in my career.
Yeah.
And then I retired from that, and I've been happy ever since.
Happy and still. Did you always live in Genoa, or were you living in in Toledo or other places?
I lived in Genoa until I got out of the service, and I lived in Toledo on the north end, right on the Michigan line.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had an opening in our Southfield, Michigan sales office when I was coming out of the field, off the road, so to speak, and I was offered a position up there. So I moved to Brighton, Michigan, and I worked out of the Southfield office for a number of years. Then when my son started school, then we moved back to Genoa, so he could go to Genoa school.
Yeah. Backing up a little bit about again growing up in Genoa. What were some of the things that you have good memories, vivid memories about growing up here, and things that you did and activities? I assume you were probably like a lot of us, riding your bicycle all over town and having a good time.
Yeah, well, I reflect back on a lot on downtown Genoa. A couple of fond memories I have was I raised rabbits when we were living in the little brick house. I raised rabbits, and my dad would give me a quarter, and on my way walking home from camper school, I would stop at the grain elevator, and Cliff Reeder was up working the grain elevator, and he would bag up a bag of rabbit food, and I'd finish my trek on home with this bag of rabbit food on my shoulder. So the grain elevator and Cliff Reeder, we were very close to the Reeders. Carl Bartz's pool room. It's too many funny stories there. The Genoan Theater.
Yeah, right.
There was a bunch of us from Packer Creek North, which would have been your area too.
Yeah.
We kind of called ourselves the North End Gang.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim Coaster was the chairman of the gang, although he lived on the south side of the creek. We considered him part of the North End Gang.
You let him into the gang,
yeah. And so we romped around in the Masons Woods over there on Washington, back before Washington Street even continued out to 51. It was just it's where the old rail line was.
Yeah, right.
And the Genoan Theater, I remember going to the Genoan Theater, and you had to buy tickets in advance for War and Peace. And it was the first movie I saw that there was an intermission in the middle of it. And I thought that was really unique. Was there?
Well, you mentioned Bartz's pool room, and I know for a lot of us men of a certain age, we remember Bartz's. A lot of mothers didn't particularly want us there, but we found our way there anyway, right?
Yeah, well, you could go in there any time of the afternoon on weekends and find Coach Bondi sitting there playing cards. There was a pinball machine which you could run up the score, and Carl would pay you for your score. There were 3 pool tables. Carl was kind of a jovial sport, but hard-nosed, and he obviously did a lot of betting off of the side. Yeah. He had the horse races on the radio playing, so he could keep track of who he had to pay off his tickets to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that shop would go over today if you just called it a cigar shop and pool parlor, billiard parlor.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was. Yeah, there was always a cast of characters that were the same people every time you walked in.
Yeah. It was interesting.
Yeah, it was, and of course, downtown Genoa was much different than it is today.
Yeah, I can remember my grandfather sitting out on a bench in front of Genoa Motors with some other old timers, talking about when the street was gravel. It was more or less a dirt road.
Yeah.
And they were talking about hitching posts across the street where Platts 5 and 10 was. You could ride into town and hitch your wagon or something to the. And at that time, the Genoa Homecoming was downtown on Main Street. Yeah. And they just drove this tent stakes into the ground, because they weren't destroying anything.
That was a big event. That was a big annual summer event.
Yeah. Do you remember the old German church?
Which?
It was St. John's before St. John's built the new.
Oh, right, sure. Well, I attended that church. Yeah.
Yeah. I think people called it the old German church for a while, and we'd have there would be vacation Bible school there. Yeah. And a lot of fond memories there.
That's one of the things about Genoa is that, and I tried, and I'm sure you have the same memories of the characters and the people here, because you got to know everybody in town.
Right. Well, you remember when there were 3 barbers downtown.
Oh, yeah.
And my uncle Afton Kelly.
Oh, he was your uncle?
Yes.
Oh,
he was a great uncle.
Yeah.
My grandmother's brother. And I would get my hair cut in there, and I was always amazed at the guys that he was a consummate hunter and fisherman and trapper.
Yeah.
And the people would bring him in buckets of mushrooms. They would bring him in some pelts for him to skin and tan. And him talking about the old days when he used to pull teeth.
Good. When the barber would pull teeth.
Yes.
Hence the red and white barber pole.
Yeah, probably. Yes.
Wow. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Did not know that. So he had been a barber in Genoa for a long time.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we had the other barber was
Johnny Desmond.
Johnny Desmond.
Down the corner where Ray's is now.
Yeah.
And Leonard Alt, which is right across the street from Platts 5 and Dime.
And Leonard ended up becoming the postmaster.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was good friends with the Alt family, and Pam Despin's, Johnny Despin's daughter was in my class, class of 66.
Yeah. So do you stay in touch with many of your classmates these days, the ones that are still around?
On Facebook, and it's pretty much social media. Yeah. I live in Walbridge now, and being removed from Genoa kind of breaks the chain of continuity with seeing people. But we kind of make up for it on social media. I tried to get when they stopped having the reunions at Zim's, I tried to get another one going. I had one, I organized one for the class of 66. We had a little mini reunion at the Art Cafe a few years ago.
Yeah.
But there wasn't enough interest to get the all-class reunion going again.
So what, besides local, do you still raise rabbits or have any other hobbies that you?
I was in boating for many years.
Yeah.
I was an instructor with the United States Power Squadron.
Mm.
I've been very active in Veterans Affairs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm presently treasurer of Toledo chapter of Chapter 35 of Vietnam Veterans of America, and I'm on the National Minority Affairs Committee.
Hmm.
We have three proposals being put through the United States Congress now. One is for the recognition of Puerto Rican veterans.
Mm-hmm.
One is for the inclusion of South Korean veterans who now live in the United States and should be entitled to the same healthcare benefits that we receive,
Mm-hmm.
because they suffered the same Agent Orange
Right.
that we did. We're suggesting a Colonel Major General Akers proposed for the Medal of Honor.
Hmm.
He was killed in Vietnam when there was an operation where a helicopter came in and extracted one individual, a lieutenant, and an injured soldier, and then Akers, a major at the time, stayed behind
Mm-hmm.
and sent them on their way. Well, the lieutenant that was on that rescue mission received the Medal of Honor.
Hmm.
And it was only later that someone said, well, Major Akers is the one who sacrificed. He should get the Medal of Honor. And they've been reluctant to do that because there's a policy that they don't give two Medal of Honors for the same operation.
Hmm.
So, but we keep pushing it through. And then the fourth item on our agenda is the recognition of the service, posthumous recommendation for the Presidential Medal of Freedom for Sergeant First Class Jorge Otero Barreto,
Mm-hmm.
who was my platoon sergeant
Hmm.
in Vietnam. He's been recognized as the most decorated NCO in Vietnam.
Hmm. Cool. Can you talk at all about your service in Vietnam, the time you spent there, where you served, and what were some of your responsibilities? I assume you were a newly minted second lieutenant when you got there?
Right. I was a new second lieutenant, a 20-year-old second lieutenant with 33 men under him. I went to the 101st Airborne, which is operating in northern South Vietnam,
Mm-hmm.
up in the mountains.
Yeah.
And I came in just after Hamburger Hill. I was more or less a replacement for the Battle of Hamburger Hill. I spent a short time back in the rear area, and I went out and I was given the battalion reconnaissance platoon.
Hmm.
And a reconnaissance platoon, their only mission is to go out and snoop around and try to draw fire,
Hmm.
at which time they would bring in reinforcements, infantry line companies to take on the enemy.
Wow.
And so we just moved around a lot. At that time, the 101st Airborne had become airborne/air mobile, meaning that we didn't jump over there. We strictly moved by helicopter.
Yeah.
And after 11 months in the field, then I came out and I took a position living out in the village as a liaison officer between the 101st Airborne and the local Vietnamese government.
Hmm.
And that was right on the north-south highway, Highway 1, just south of Hue. And then when I came back to now. I became an instructor at Fort Polk, Louisiana.
I assume you made a lot of friends while you were there in Vietnam, and you have lots of
Yes.
memories.
I've kept in touch. We have a small group. Within the United States. We get together every several years.
Mm-hmm.
4 of us are in Ohio. One is in Kentucky. One is in upstate New York.
Yeah.
And there's extended family in Texas and California. But we've maintained contact, and every few years we get together.
Yeah.
There's a number of books and movies on the subject. Back to Hamburger Hill, I just add this little tidbit.
Yeah.
That I came in after Hamburger Hill, but one of my instructors from OCS, Richard Patterson, he left the infantry school early because he received orders to go to Hamburger Hill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, he was put in the 101st Airborne, and he was killed on Hamburger Hill 3 weeks after he arrived in country. And then, while I was there, I went to a briefing one night. We were on a fire base, and I went to a briefing, and I heard that Firebase Ripcord, which was a few kilometers west of us toward the Ashaw Valley,
Yeah.
they were really taking a lot.
Yeah.
And I didn't put much together. But later that night, we were told to assemble at the helipad. We were put on helicopters. We were flown over, around, and then brought back and said that we weren't needed. They had established contact with the lost unit. It wasn't until I read Keith Nolan's book, The Siege of Firebase Ripcord, that I realized that that night when we were on the helicopters, we were going to rescue a platoon that was commanded by an OCS classmate of mine, Terry Palm. And he was killed on Ripcord. And Ripcord did not receive the notoriety because after Hamburger Hill, Lyndon Johnson said no more press in the field.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess. Well, yeah, I assume you feel, as you look back on it today, and any new reflections, perspectives, or feeling that you were probably pretty damn lucky.
Yeah, that comes to mind, and I always think, what it was. I think it was somewhere around 50% skill and ability, and 50% luck.
Yeah.
And the more skill and ability you could enter into the equation,
Right.
you could reduce the amount of luck needed. But it wasn't far. It was almost 50-50.
Yeah. So, well, I'm going to reverse course a little bit here. I'm going to talk a little bit about your school years. Just what you remember about you. Did you go to the camper school? I assume at elementary school here.
Yes, I went to the camper school. There were 3 levels. I was in Mrs. Dolph's first grade. I was in Mrs. Ronaldo's second grade, and Mrs. Royce's third grade class. And I can actually remember I want to say a fire drill, but I think it was a bomb drill. I think we had to get under our desks. I remember one fire drill in third grade where we had to go outside and stand in line. But there was another one, I believe, we got under our desks, which was unique. Yeah, that was camper school. The only other thing I remember from camper school was that they offered dance classes at the American Legion one time, and they would march us down the street to the American Legion. Maybe it was on the lunch hour or after.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was like a 3 week dance class in grade school. Then I went to Bruner School. Bruner School had just been completed, and Joseph Ronaldo was the superintendent. And then I was the last freshman class at the old high school.
Yeah.
And then the first sophomore class at the new high school.
Yeah. So, yeah, the Bruner School, I grew up right across the street from that as that was being built.
Right.
And, yeah, it was spanking brand new when we first entered.
Yeah, you had a built-in playground right across the street.
Yeah, I did. Who was your teacher in fifth grade?
Oh, I tried to recall that. I can remember some names. Conker.
It was Mrs. Conker, and there was
Mrs. Conker, Neosmeyer.
And Dane, Leona Dane.
Leona Dane. I had Conker and Neosmeyer. Bradstreet.
Yeah, Joe Bradstreet. I think she taught sixth grade, I think.
Yeah, so I think it was Conker, Neosmeyer, and Bradstreet.
Yeah, I'll be darned. Yeah, that was an interesting time. So, were you involved in sports at all? Did you do any sports?
I played football in junior high school, and then in high school they had just started a wrestling program, and that sounded interesting to me. So I went out. I went out for the first year of wrestling, but they had there was a stipulation that first year school in a sport, it was a probationary year. So our wrestling matches were pretty much scrimmages, but it was in the second year that our matches counted for something. Yeah. We had two or three members on our team who went on to the championships within the conference, and Lynn Spalding went on to state. I think he took third or fifth in state.
Yeah.
I do remember one time after a basketball game at the old high school in January. I had not made arrangements to be picked up. And I walked home from the high school, and it was obviously very cold. And my parents were at my grandparents' house when they lived in the old inn.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in and took my hat off, and they looked at me and said, "Your ears are frozen."
Wow.
And so they went through this, old-time remedy of taking warm oil and thawing out the ears.
Wow.
Walking home from the old high school after a basketball game.
Wow. November of 1963 was the Kennedy assassination, and we were in high school at the time.
Sure.
Do you remember that day and what happened and how it all went down at school?
Yes, we were in Mrs. Haif's typing. I took typing because someone had said, if you're going to college, you better have typing. We were sitting in Mrs. Haif's typing class in the afternoon when they announced it, and I believe they concluded the school day right then and there.
Yeah, it was pretty much over. Yeah, we were down in study hall in the cafeteria. So, yeah.
And then I remember being over at Jim Coaster's house, down in the basement, probably playing pool or ping pong or something. And Mrs. Coaster was watching the TV, and she let out a yelp, and Lee Harvey Oswald had just been shot in the bottom of the basement of the police headquarters.
Yeah. It's just 2 days after
2 days after.
the JFK assassination. Yeah. Yeah, that was a very, very strange weekend, and the whole week. I mean, I just remember. I remember that being you were sort of almost surreal for.
Yeah.
It's very similar to 9/11.
Yeah, it was like
A surreal time.
Yes, yes. Everything was in limbo.
Yeah, yeah. Now, something we haven't talked about, and a lot of people knew your parents very well and your family very well because you've been here for many years. And I don't know if you wanted to talk about your mom and dad, because your dad, of course, was well known running the gas station, and I think he was everybody's favorite mechanic.
I'm amazed. I could tell you a handful of stories where I've run into people, and they'd say, "Are you related to Bob and Charlene?" And I'd say, "That's my mom and dad," and they would say, "I used to work for them." There were four boys from the Weaver family:
Yeah,
Merle, Bill, Bob, and Jim,
yeah.
who grew up there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I was driving down to Cincinnati to see my brother Bill in school down there, and I got drowsy, so I pulled in a rest area. Probably it would be around Dayton now.
Yeah.
And I just turned the light, turned the car off, and I heard a knock at the window and a flashlight, and he asked to see my driver's license. It was obviously a state highway patrolman. And I showed him my driver's license, and he said, Are you Bob and Charlene's boy?" And I said, "Yeah." And he says, "My name's Bob Koltoff. I worked in the gas station."
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Small world, isn't
Small
it?
world.
Small world.
There's more stories, but
Oh,
that was the most interesting.
yeah. Well, yes, and I knew. Well, now you told me a story about your dad serving with a movie star in World War II.
Yeah, they were filming the movie Sahara in the desert in Southern California, and they conscripted, or they coordinated with the United States Army to use some of the armored units
Mm-hmm.
in the movie of Sahara, which was a tank battle
Yeah.
in North Africa. And Humphrey Bogart was very cordial, met with the guys, and I've got several pictures of different members of the crew, some grouped together, and my dad and Humphrey Bogart standing around just shooting the breeze. It was very personal. And my dad was also, he was also in a recon unit in the 4th Armored Division. And a little bit of trivia, my dad's unit broke through the Battle of the Bulge and rescued my unit, the 101st Airborne, which was surrounded in Bastogne.
Mm.
And then later, we both served under the same man. Creighton Abrams, for which the Abrams tank is named after, was his company commander. And when I got to Vietnam, Creighton Abrams was 1st Corps commander. We both served under the same man.
That's amazing. Yeah. And so your dad got to know Humphrey Bogart for a while? And
just a handful of
Yeah.
photographs.
Yeah. That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. I remember you telling me that story, and I wanted to talk about that again. And of course, your other sibling, your Bill, of course.
Yes.
Yes. Bill has become a fairly well-known person here in town, even though he doesn't live here, but he's well known for what he's done with
Sure.
stage work in Broadway.
Yeah.
And did you have other siblings too, or?
I had one one brother who passed away when we were very young. I think I was 13, he was 11, and he died of birth defect.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. So, would you say, who were the people that had the most influence in your life? Any teachers, any people that you think had a good influence, positive or otherwise?
Yeah. I would probably have to start in middle school, junior high school. Patrick Barton,
Mm-hmm.
the principal at Allen Central.
Yeah.
He was a great role model. He was coach of our basketball team. And then into high school, I would say Jim Llewellyn,
Mm-hmm.
the math teacher, who his teaching methods were excellent.
Yeah.
You went up to the board, and you proved that you knew algebra. And Coach Firestone, of course. Coach Firestone was the one who got the wrestling program started. He hired a fellow from the outside, a non-teacher, but this fellow, Bob Knox, had taken his own son from childhood illness to a state champion.
Mm.
Coach Firestone brought that in and got that going, and I admire him for that. And Coach Firestone and my dad were good fishing buddies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they went fishing quite often.
Hmm. As you think back on all your years in Genoa, and I'm sure there are people who have mixed feelings about it, and there are people who moved away and never came back. Why did you come back?
Well, I came back because my son was starting elementary school.
Yeah.
And we were living in Brighton, Michigan at the time, and I could have chosen Sylvania, Ohio, or downtown Toledo, or
Yeah.
east side, north, west, south. But I came back to Genoa because I knew that those kind of memories I would want to share with my son.
Mm-hmm.
I would want him to have the same experiences and the same exposures to, a rural town that I had.
Yeah.
And I believe he has. He's done it quite well.
Yeah. And you find this town is there's still something about this town that hasn't changed.
Right, yes.